You cannot ascend without being in your body. Ascension is not about escaping the physical world. Ascension is not about escaping or denying or divesting yourself from your human experience. Ascension is happening this time around in the physical body. We are in the process of rewiring and rebuilding our physical reality and our physical experience. So it's about human 2.0. It's about Homo luminous. It's about the divine human. It is not about denying the human experience. It is about redefining the human experience and recreating what it means to be a divine, infinite being of light and energy in a finite physical reality. Hey friends, it's Amar. How are you? I have another video for you today. As always, this message is evergreen, and what that means is that no matter when you find it, whenever you are watching it, is the perfect time for you to be viewing it right now. Everything that I offer is about practical ascension. It's about giving you tools and insights and understanding to begin to recreate your life and your world beginning today. So what I'll tell you once again is take anything that resonates, take anything that feels accessible and understandable to you right now and begin to apply it and leave everything else. Some of it might make sense immediately. Some of it might make sense later on down the line and you may come back to it, and some of it may never make sense. Whatever it is, I encourage you to take the tools and the insights and the offerings that I have for you and make them your own, because my keys won't open your doors. It's got to work for you in order for it to be effective and something that you can really fully invest in as a way to begin to recreate your life and your world and your experience. So what I'm going to share with you in this video is some ascension keys. You know, 2025 is the beginning of a new reality for us. It is the age of Aquarius. The energies are going to begin to accelerate this year and begin to move us into expanded territory that we have never really been in individually and collectively. It is a whole new ballgame. It is a brand new world. A lot of the things that we are going to be experiencing and going through, we have never experienced in our collective human history. So it's all new. The slate is clean, all bets are off, and we are on the other side of the threshold of our past history. And it is now about beginning to move into a new experience, a new reality, and a whole new chapter for us individually and collectively. So the first thing that I want to talk about is Pluto and Aquarius. And I know that you have probably heard this mentioned by many, many people. Basically, anybody who creates content or offers guidance or insight within like the spiritual community has probably mentioned this at least a couple of times. If you're looking for someone or something that can perhaps be a little bit of a deeper dive on Pluto and Aquarius, there are three astrologers that I really like. Pam Gregory, Molly McCord, and Stephanie Azaria all offer really, really beautiful, really comprehensive perspectives on everything that's happening astrologically. And when I am looking for astrological insight, those are the three that I go to most consistently. However, what we can talk about just briefly is that Pluto in Aquarius is getting ready to be super activated by the sun moving into Aquarius. In just a couple of days, we're moving into Aquarius season, and I get the sense that the energies are going to start to move really, really rapidly. Pluto in Aquarius is essentially shining a light on anything that is hidden, anything that is beneath the surface, anything that isn't entirely clear and has maybe been deep in those murky waters of our collective unconscious or subconscious, or things that have been purposely hidden, as in anything that has been deceitful or dishonest. And so Pluto in Aquarius is going to bring those things to the surface really, really quickly. Another thing to note is that Aquarius is an air sign, and air sign energy moves really, really fast. Aquarians are known for being very futuristic, very forward thinking. And so I think just in general, we are going to see our experience begin to accelerate really, really quickly as soon as the sun moves into Aquarius in just a couple of days. The other thing that we have coming up in just a couple of weeks is the Lunar New Year, and we are moving into the year of the snake. And the snake is all about shedding the skin. The snake is all about leaving behind the things that don't work anymore. The snake also, as an animal and as a symbol, is really, really close to the ground. So the snake is really connected to those natural cycles and rhythms of the planet that we all live on. So the snake is all about returning to that deeper sense of your knowing, that deeper sense of your innate organic connection as the divine being that you are, and as a being that is connected to all that is. We are all a part of it. There is nothing or no one that is separate from the unified field. It is all happening within the field of spirit. Another thing that we have going on is 2025 is a 9-year. If you add up 2, 0, 2, 5, it reduces to 9, and 9 is a number of mastery and of completion. So it is about coming into the fullest expression of who you know yourself to be now. Also, every time that we're getting ready to level up, we go through sort of a final exam. And so this is where we are right now collectively and individually in this place where it is all about taking everything that we have learned over the past few years, taking everything that we know about ourselves to be true at this moment in time and beginning to apply it to a new way of being, a new way of living, and a new way of moving through the world. So I want to talk about the astrology just really, really quickly. A lot of the astrological alignments that we are getting ready to dance with have never happened in our lifetimes before. Certainly in a cyclical reality such as the one that we live in, we can say that, yeah, okay, at some point in the past, these astrological alignments occurred, but unless you're over like 175 years old, which if you are, please contact me directly and give me the secret to your longevity. But unless you're more than 175 years old, chances are you have never experienced these astrological alignments before in your life. There's probably not a human alive who has lived through some of the astrology that we are getting ready to move into. So it is a brand new landscape. It is something that we have never experienced before. And if you're looking through the same old lens, you're probably not going to see it, or you're going to distort it into an old way of fear-based thinking, of exclusionary-based thinking, or scarcity-based thinking. So it's really about allowing yourself to wipe away all of your preconceived notions of what it is to be a human, of what it is to create in a physical reality. Challenge your assumptions, challenge those old stories, and really giving yourself the gift of saying and the grace of saying, is this really true anymore? Is this what I believe about myself anymore? And is this the way that I want to live my life? Because while we're moving into these astrological alignments that haven't happened for a couple of hundred years, we are also moving into astrological alignments that we have no record of in this chapter of our human history. If we're going back to some of the earliest records that we have access to of astrology, there is no record for this astrology. So we are literally in a new reality, and it is a beautiful opportunity to continue to challenge your preconceived ideas and your programming, your indoctrination that tell you that living as a human means these specific things. So a really easy way to think about this, and a really simple way to kind of just break it down, is there's kind of two schools of thought. There's kind of two tracks that you could be running on right now. One is the track of love, and one is the track of fear. That's really as simple as it gets. A way that I like to look at it, especially as I'm continuing to challenge my old stories and my old indoctrination and my old patterns and beliefs, is, am I living in expectancy of some horrible, awful, tragic thing to happen? Or am I actively building the world that I dream of, the world of inclusion, the world of availability, the world of support, the world of being resourced, the world of being fulfilled, the world of being satisfied, the world of being excited and joyful and in community and creativity and collaboration and co-creation? It might be a challenge for you to continue to believe in a different life, a different way, and a better world for yourself and everyone involved, but that's kind of the point. You came here for an experience that would help you unlock your powers as a divine master human. You didn't come here for an experience that would continue to reinforce your beliefs of yourself as a weak or powerless or victimized human. That a lot of these changes are happening within the body. I've talked about this before, that when we are going through a manifestation of something, or when we are creating something, the physical experience of it is the last stop on the energy train. It first begins as an insight, as an impulse, as the aha moment or the epiphany or the bolt of inspiration. So it begins as something that is non-physical. It begins as something that is an energetic experience, and then it begins to move into our mental experience, and it becomes an idea, and it becomes a concept, and then it begins to move through our emotional field or the field of our belief, and then eventually it lands in the body and lands in the physical realm as a physical reality that we begin to experience in real time. So a lot of the changes that are happening right now are happening at the physical level, because all of the things that we've been asking about, visioning about, praying about, and thinking about are now actually becoming real. They're starting to manifest in our physical plane. So in many ways, what we're being called to do is retrain our muscle memory, to overwrite and override the old cellular memory and neural pathways. We're being given an opportunity to confront over and over and over the old belief systems, the old expectations, and the old assumptions that we just used to say, well, that's what it is to be a human. That's what it is to be a part of this family or this lineage, or that's what it is to be a part of this group or this, this culture. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way anymore. And so a lot of what is happening right now, if you're feeling particularly challenged, and especially if you're feeling like it's old things that keep coming up and keep coming back and keep re-emerging into your experience, it's because you're being given an opportunity to see it with a whole new set of eyes and to ask those challenging questions. Is this real? Is this what I still believe? Is this who I want to be in the world? And is this the reality that I want to create? So it's really important to understand this, because here's one of the most important keys. You cannot ascend without being in your body. Ascension is not about escaping the physical world. Ascension is not about escaping or denying or divesting yourself from your human experience. Ascension is happening this time around in the physical body. We are in the process of rewiring and rebuilding our physical reality and our physical experience. So it's about human 2.0. It's about Homo luminous. It's about the divine human. It is not about denying the human experience. It is about redefining the human experience and recreating what it means to be a divine, infinite being of light and energy in a finite physical reality. So you cannot ascend if you are not in the body. If you are stuck up here in airy-fairy woo-woo land, that's wonderful. These higher frequencies are super important, but it's not about escaping up to them. It is about drawing them down into the body and asking them to descend into your form, which is when the alchemy and the transmutation and the transformation occurs. So you can't ascend without being rooted into your physical body. That is the key this time around. If you need some help with perhaps clearing some resistance from the physical body, check out my most recent video, Building the New Earth Bridge. At the end of that video, I share a practical tool for how to get into your physical body and begin to clear that programming and that old resistance, which will help you integrate and to accelerate your ascension process. Because here's the thing. Those old programs, those old patterns, they are ready to break for good. They are ready to go. They are ready to snap. They are ready to dissolve and to shatter. But we have to be in our body, claiming our space, reclaiming our divinity, and living as the sovereign in order for them to do that. Nature doesn't like a vacuum. So when we clear the space of the old stuff, what it does is it creates a void for us to fill it then with our higher awareness, with our deeper wisdom, and with the consciousness of our higher aspects that is ready and willing and actually in process of descending into our physical form. So one of the things that you can do right now, I am not a big fan of New Year's resolutions, especially since this is not really the time of year when it begins anyway. We're still, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, we're still in the dead of winter. So we're still in this period of dormancy. January is not necessarily the new year. It's just a turn of a page called the calendar, but it doesn't necessarily signify a new beginning. But what you can do is rather than focus on resolution, focus on what you want to devote and dedicate yourself to this year. We all are born with the same gifts. We all have our intention. We all have our focus. We all have our awareness. We all have our energy. We all have our love. We all have the decision to decide where we want to invest ourselves and what beliefs we want to support. So what you can do right now, anybody can do this, is just spend some time in stillness and in silence, really getting into your deeper perspectives and your deeper self, and really begin to ask, what is it that I want to devote and dedicate myself to this year? Because here are some things to be aware of. Intention is preparation. Expectation is preparation. And whatever it is that you are preparing for is what you are eventually going to receive. You're laying the path one brick, one stone, one plank of wood at a time. So when you're building a bridge, like I talked about in the early video for this year, when you're building a bridge from where you are to where you want to be, the first thing that you have to do is identify where you want to end up. If you're planning a road trip, you need to know your destination. You need to know where you're going, and then that really informs and shows you where your route and your path can go. But until you have decided where it is that you want to end up, you're kind of just wasting your time. So intention and expectation are preparation and planning for where you want to end up. And this is a perfect time to focus on that. So a little bit more about astrology. Right now we have Mars in retrograde in Cancer. Mars is the planet of action. It is the planet of assertion. Its shadow is aggression and violence. And what I always say is the masculine without the feminine is what happens when we see violence and war and exclusion and scarcity. The masculine needs the feminine why in order to guide it, in order to give it guardrails. If we think about a river without a bed is just water going everywhere. And so Mars retrograde is kind of frustrating because it's that energy that wants to do, it wants to go, it wants to create, it wants to conquer, it wants to vanquish. But while it is retrograde, it's this sense of like the pot with the lid about to boil over. Also, it's retrograde in Cancer. And Mars does not like being retrograde in those deep emotional waters of Cancer. But here's the thing, Cancer is the feminine impulse. Cancer is a very, very feminine sign. It's a water sign, and water is a feminine element. So it's feminine energy that is calling in the masculine force, and she's saying, wait a minute, baby, simmer down, take a breath, take a beat, count to 10, count to 100, and listen to me. Listen to the feminine self. Listen to the deeper knowings and the promptings and the urgings of the soul. Listen to that intuitive emotional body that resides deep within you, and get quiet and listen to it so that it can tell you, this is where we're going this year. This is where we're heading this year. This is the vibe, the frequency, the flavor, the experiences that I want to create as your feminine self. And then it is the masculine that goes out and does it, that creates it, that builds it, that makes it. So Mars retrograde in Cancer might feel a little bit frustrating. And so if you just kind of expect that maybe there might be a delay, maybe there might be a detour, maybe there might be a little bit of a dead end, because that alignment, Mars retrograde in Cancer, ends in I think the middle part of February, so not much longer, but that's why it's a beautiful time to get clear on the desire, to get clear on the vision, to get clear on where you would like to end up, and focus on the energy, feeling, experience, or the vibe of it. And then that gives you a to-do list of the things that you can begin to implement and put into action when it's time to go out and do and create in physical form. So what you could do between now and mid-February is begin to prioritize your inner experience. Give the priority to how you feel. Give the priority to your intuition. Give the priority to that little voice that's, whispering in your ear, hey, what about this thing? Hey, what about that thing? Remember that dream? Remember that desire? Remember that vision? Pay attention to that. And then once the masculine energy is really moving into high gear, which is only going to be a couple of more weeks, then you're going to have a plan that will help guide you to ensure that fiery, powerful, assertive Mars energy has a very specific target that it's supposed to hit. So I want to share with you a little bit of a visual aid to talk a little bit more about the balance between the masculine and the feminine and why that is so important. If you're interested, go ahead and check out my Ascension column video. It's here on my channel. I posted it a couple of months ago. That will also help to expand and illuminate this idea, but I want to show you something really quick. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the masculine and the feminine. And this is a Venn diagram, VENN. And so this is a really good way to give you a visual of what it is that I'm talking about. So we can say that this side of the diagram is the feminine energy, this side of the diagram is the masculine energy, and it is the feminine energy that is the foundation for everything. Everything is feminine first. Feminine is the void of creation. Feminine energy is the womb. It is the unfertilized egg. It is the seed that hasn't been cracked yet. So the feminine impulse is first. Everything is feminine first. Everything starts as an idea or a vision or a desire or an inkling. So we have the feminine self over here. And so she's sitting here gestating and visioning and dreaming about what it is that she wants to create. And then we have the masculine over here that is ready to do and to act and to go out and be the assertive, one that creates the boundaries and creates the thing. So the feminine is basically the why and the masculine is basically the how. And in this center point where they overlap, that's where inspired action occurs. That is where what I would say is where the child descends. When you have your feminine and your masculine aspects in balance, that's what opens up this channel, the divine self, the child self, the eternal self, to descend into the physical body. Because when we have our feminine self and our masculine self in balance and both in check, and we know how to feed and nurture them both equally, then we are in that central column. Then we are in that ascension column. And this is where the magic happens. This is where the inspired action, the divine action, the aligned action occurs, but it can only occur once the feminine and masculine are in balance. The feminine without the masculine is just an idea. She's just an emotion. She's just a vision. She is that water without the creek bed to guide it. The masculine without the feminine is just action. He's just frustration. He's just desire to do something, to make something, to create something. And if he doesn't have the feminine why, then he devolves into violence. Then he devolves into it, well, if I can't make it, then I can break it, because the masculine is that impulse impulse that needs to do something. It needs to go out and create something, to be in action. But what it needs is the feminine why. Why am I creating this? Why am I doing this? Why am I building this? Why am I out here looking for resources? So that's why we need the feminine and the masculine in balance to open up that central channel, and that's where inspired aligned action occurs. There's one more thing I want to show you. So here's another way you can think of it: the pyramid, the equilateral triangle. So we have the feminine over here, we have the masculine over here, and this is something that I often talk about on my private sessions and in my workshops, is that in order to find your center, you need to find your edges. So we go all the way into the void. We go deeply into our feminine desire, our longing, our intuition, our emotions, and our vision. Then we go all the way over to the edge of our masculine self, into the action, into the forward momentum, into the energy that decides, that cuts, that defines, that pierces, that draws boundaries, that, cuts through the darkness or cuts through the fog. So we find both of those edges through our inner work. It's through the exploration of our deepest, darkest shadow and our highest, brightest light. And that is what allows us to come into balance. And guess what happens when I have my feminine in balance and my masculine in balance? Then I open up that central channel, which is the peak of the pyramid, the apex of the pyramid. And this is where the child begins to descend. Once I have my masculine and my feminine in balance, then this channel opens up in the center, the ascension column, and that is what allows me to have the balance. Because if we think of like the teeter-totter or the seesaw, right? We've all played on those on the playground. In order for this plank to be balanced, it has to have a fulcrum. It has to have a center point. And you are the fulcrum. You are the center point. But you can't find your center unless you're willing to explore your edges. So these are just a couple of visual references to help you get a better idea of what it is that I'm talking about when I'm talking about the balance between the masculine and the feminine, the balance between your desire and your action. It is that center point that is the sweet spot where those two diagrams overlap and we have that opening. That is where you move forward and proceed through inspired and divine action. So talking a little bit more about the importance of that inner work and the importance of that internal exploration, that is where you begin to rewrite your story. When you are willing to go in and explore the shadow realm and explore the realms of light is when you really begin to discover who is it that I am really and who is it that I believe myself to be? Who is it that I've told that I am? Who is it that I've been programmed to believe I am? So all of these things are really, really important and really, really crucial. But it's easy to forget who you are when you haven't taken the time to rewrite your story. That is where we are this year. I talked about this in my last video. We are in a bridge year. We are moving from where we have been to where we want to be. But in order to do that, I have to get clear on who it is that I believe myself to be. Whether it's a belief that I inherited or adopted, it's still what I tell myself. And consistently, whatever it is that I tell myself is what I'm going to create. And where I want to go, where I want to arrive, and where I want to end up is the vision, it is the desire, is the dream. And I need to get clear on both of those so that I can begin to rewrite my story. That's why healing is so important, is that it allows you to rewrite your history. And when you rewrite your history, you heal yourself from your present moment and you go back in time, you heal yourself, you heal your lineage. Then once you've gone through the healing process, then you begin the process of transformation, which is moving forward with the new belief system, with the new idea, with the new dream and the new sense of what is possible. So a good question to ask yourself right now is, are you still walking around reading from the same old script just by default, just by accident, just because it's easier, or you haven't taken the time to challenge yourself? I would say you have a duty to rewrite your script, because whatever it is that you believe is how you're navigating the world, it is also the energy that you're putting out there. So asking yourself, what energetically are you pouring into the collective well that we all drink from? Are you talking about sovereignty? Are you talking about personal accountability? Are you talking about cooperation and collaboration and co-creation? Are you talking about victim consciousness? Are you talking about powerlessness? Are you talking about old authoritarian paradigms that don't really serve anybody except for those select few at the top? So you really got to get clear on what it is that you want to create, because that is what you are pouring into the collective well, and that is what you are asking your energy to show up in service of. So it's important to get clear on whether or not you have taken the time to compassionately challenge your old story and your old mental construct, because it is your mental lens that will make or break you this year. And if you haven't taken the time to dismantle still your mental prison. You are just going to be going around and around, coming back to square one over and over and over, because energetically, those old ways are not supported anymore. That's the key. That's the trick. The pool that you are swimming in this year is totally different water, and it's not going to support you moving through the world from an idea of being a victim or being powerless or being broken. So do your healing work, do what you need to do to rebuild and rewrite your story, and then begin to proceed forward with the new concepts of who you are and what you're capable of. Your mind is a function of your masculine self, and you're going to be taking a whole lot of action this year, because another thing that's happening astrologically is we have a whole bunch of planets moving into air and fire signs. Air and fire are both masculine elements. They are outward moving, they are forward moving, they are upward moving, they propel forward, they break through the barriers, they break through the blindness and the fog and the illusion. But you are not going to allow yourself to choose something if you don't believe that it's possible. Again, embodiment is key. We are working inclusively of the physical self and the physical experience. So if the body doesn't believe it, if the body hasn't accepted it as real until you feel it in your bones and your bloods and your gut and your DNA, you are not going to allow yourself to choose it, or you'll choose it for a while, but it won't be sustainable, because you must have a deep, inherent, rooted belief that what it is that you are here to do is possible. And I'm telling you, it is possible. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So this is the year that you will know your greatness one way or another. You will either have the experience of living it or the experience of regretting that you didn't live it. Either way, you're going to see that greatness before you. So are you willing to move through this 9-year of mastery and completion? Are you ready for the final exam? And here's the trick. When you're in a final exam, the teacher is always silent. So in many ways, you are going to have to dig deep into your inner resources and your inner self to really find that conviction and say, you know what? I can do it. You know what? I am powerful. You know what? I am divine, and I am capable of bringing what I desire and what I dream of into physical form. So it is time to take that final exam and demonstrate what you have learned through your actions and your choices. Because 9 is a completion, but it is also turning the page to the new beginning. 9 is the final unique number in our number sequence, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11, and on. We just begin to repeat new combinations of the same old numbers. So 9 is the last chapter in our experience before the wheel turns into the new cycle. So 2025 is a beautiful year to proceed without knowing, to say, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyway. I don't know why I'm here, but I'm going to stick around anyway. It's also a beautiful opportunity to let dissatisfaction or frustration help you co-create. There's nothing wrong with being dissatisfied. There's nothing wrong with wanting something else or wanting something more. I recorded a video about this too. It's entitled The Power of Dissatisfaction, because it is being dissatisfied that is the first step to creating something new, to say, I don't want this anymore. This doesn't serve me anymore. Allowing yourself to be dissatisfied and continuing to show up. Continue to show up and say, okay, I don't really like this, but the only way I'm going to change it is by being present in my experience. You don't change and recreate your experience by vacating it, by avoiding it, or trying to transcend it. You change your experience by walking into the room and going, okay, this is the mess that I have before me. This is the reality of my current situation. And I know that I created this in some way, so I know that I can recreate it in some way. And the key this year is to begin to create on purpose, with intention, and deliberately. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope this helps. I love you. Enjoy the rest of your month. I'll see you soon. Bye.